I walked into my childhood bedroom 3 hours before my wedding ceremony and found my 22-year-old sister Melody standing in front of the mirror wearing my custom-made wedding gown and our late grandmother's priceless diamond earrings. When I demanded an explanation, my mother Patricia entered and casually said Melody deserved to feel special too since she just went through a painful breakup. I gave an ultimatum: take off the dress, or I would cancel the entire wedding. Melody laughed dismissively until she saw the cold determination in my eyes. The sound of Melody's laughter cut through me like broken glass, but it was what I saw next that made my blood run cold. The wedding dress wasn't just hanging loose on her smaller frame. It fit her perfectly. Every seam, every curve, every delicate pearl button along the spine aligned exactly with her body. Someone had professionally altered my $1,200 custom gown to fit my sister's figure. This wasn't some spontaneous decision born from heartbreak and poor judgment. This had been planned for weeks. I grew up as the middle child in our family, sandwiched between my responsible older brother Marcus and my parents' golden child Melody. While Marcus went off to college on an engineering scholarship and built his successful career in Seattle, I stayed local, working my way through community college while living at home to save money. That's where I met Tyler, a carpentry student with calloused hands and the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and I'd been planning this wedding day since I was 7 years old. Our late grandmother Rose's diamond earrings had been passed down through 4 generations of women in our family. They were worth $20,000, not that their monetary value mattered to me. What mattered was the tradition, the connection to the strong women who came before me, the promise that one day I'd pass them to my own daughter. Patricia had presented them to me just last month with tears in her eyes, saying I'd earned the right to wear them on my wedding day. But here was Melody admiring herself in my bedroom mirror wearing my dreams like they were a costume. "Melody, how long have you had this dress altered?" I asked, my voice deadly quiet. She spun around the skirt of my gown, billowing around her like she was performing in some twisted fairy tale. "Oh, just a few days. Patricia thought it would be nice if we both looked special today." Both looked special. I stepped closer, noticing she'd also used my expensive Chanel foundation, the one I'd saved up 3 months to buy specifically for my wedding day. My perfume, a delicate French scent Tyler had given me for my birthday, clung to her skin like she'd bathed in it. Patricia appeared in the doorway wringing her hands, but maintaining that same dismissive expression she always wore when defending Melody's behavior. "Danette, sweetheart, you're overreacting. Melody's been so depressed since Brandon broke up with her. I thought this would help her feel beautiful again." "By stealing my wedding." The words came out sharper than I intended, but I was past caring about maintaining family peace. "Nobody's stealing anything," Patricia snapped. "There's no reason you can't both wear white today. You've always been jealous of how beautiful Melody is, and now you're being selfish on what should be a day about family and love." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Jealous. That word had followed me my entire childhood. Jealous when Melody got the lead in the school play. Jealous when she was homecoming queen. Jealous when she got into the state university on a partial scholarship while I had to settle for community college. Never mind that I'd worked 2 jobs throughout high school while Melody focused on her social life and extracurricular activities that looked good on college applications. My father, Robert, was notably absent from this confrontation. I could picture him at the venue right now, setting up chairs and arranging flowers, blissfully unaware that his wife and youngest daughter were destroying his oldest daughter's wedding day 3 hours before it was supposed to begin. The sound of car doors slamming in the driveway announced the arrival of my maid of honor, Jessica. She bounded up the stairs with her usual energy, calling out my name, then stopped dead when she saw the scene in my bedroom. "What in the hell is happening here?" Jessica demanded, taking in Melody's appearance with the sharp eyes of someone who'd been my best friend since 5th grade. "Language, Jessica," Patricia scolded automatically. "No, seriously, what is this?" Jessica gestured at Melody. "Why is she wearing Danette's dress?" "She's feeling special today, too," Patricia explained in that patronizing tone she used when she thought she was being reasonable. Jessica pulled out her phone and started scrolling through social media with growing horror on her face. "Danette, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward me, showing Melody's Instagram account. Photo after photo showed my sister wearing my wedding dress, posing in our backyard, captioning the images with hearts and wedding ring emojis. But the captions made my stomach drop. "Can't wait to marry the love of my life." Read one. "Finally getting my happily ever after," said another. The most recent post, uploaded just 30 minutes ago, showed her wearing the dress with grandmother's earrings, captioned, "Walking down the aisle today to marry my soulmate Brandon." Brandon, the ex-boyfriend who had dumped her 6 weeks ago after catching her lying about being accepted to graduate school. Melody, I said slowly, "People think you're getting married today," to Brandon. Her face flushed pink, but she lifted her chin defiantly. "So what if I let them think that I deserve to feel special too? I deserve to have people congratulate me and tell me I'm beautiful. You get Tyler, you get this perfect life, and what do I get? Nothing." That's when I realized this went far beyond borrowing a dress or seeking attention. My sister had constructed an elaborate fantasy, and my wedding day was simply the stage for her performance. Patricia rushed to Melody's defense before I could respond to the social media revelation. "Those posts are just harmless fantasy, Danette. Melody's been struggling with depression since her breakup, and her therapist says creative visualization can help with healing. You're being cruel by attacking her when she's vulnerable." I stared at my mother in disbelief. Creative visualization. She's telling hundreds of people she's getting married today to a man who won't even return her phone calls. This isn't therapy, it's delusion. The memories crashed over me like a tide I couldn't hold back. Birthday parties where Melody got presents too so she wouldn't feel left out. School events where Patricia spent more time photographing Melody in the audience than me on stage receiving awards. College graduation where my parents arrived late because they'd stopped to buy Melody a consolation gift for not finishing her degree yet. Every achievement in my life had been diminished to make room for Melody's feelings, and now she was literally wearing my wedding dress while my mother defended her right to do it. "You've never understood Melody's sensitive nature." Patricia continued straightening the neckline of my dress on Melody's shoulders like she was primping her for prom. "She feels things more deeply than other people. When she hurts, she really hurts." "And what about when I hurt?" I asked. "What about my feelings right now?" "You're strong, Danette. You always have been. You can handle disappointment better than your sister." Strong. Another word that had shaped my childhood. Strong enough to give up the last piece of cake so Melody wouldn't cry. Strong enough to let her borrow my clothes and never return them. Strong enough to work extra shifts at my part-time job so I could pay for my own school clothes while Melody got shopping trips to the mall. Strength, I'd learned, was just another word for being ignored. The sound of my father's truck in the driveway provided a momentary surge of hope. Robert had always been gentler than Patricia, more willing to see situations from multiple perspectives. When he walked through the front door and climbed the stairs, I prepared to explain the situation to someone who might actually listen. "Dad, thank goodness you're here." I started, but the words died in my throat when I saw his expression. He looked tired, defeated, like a man who'd been fighting a war he couldn't win. I see your mother told you about the plan, he said quietly. You knew about this. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I tried to talk her out of it, sweetheart. I really did. But you know how your mother gets when she's set on something. How she gets, Jessica interjected, her voice rising with indignation. She's not a force of nature. She's a person making choices, and this choice is destroying Danette's wedding day. Robert looked at Jessica like he'd forgotten she was there, then back at me with those same defeated eyes. Maybe we can find a compromise. Maybe there's a way for both my girls to feel special today. My heart sank. Even my father, the one person I'd counted on to have my back, was wavering under Patricia's emotional manipulation. Car doors slammed outside again, and through my bedroom window, I saw Tyler's mother, Linda, walking up our front path. She'd insisted on coming early to help with any last-minute details, and I'd been grateful for her support throughout the wedding planning process. Linda had lost her own mother when Tyler was young, and she'd stepped into a maternal role in my life with a gentle wisdom that stood in stark contrast to Patricia's dramatic manipulations. When Linda reached my bedroom and took in the scene, her face went through a series of expressions. Confusion first, then understanding, then a controlled anger that somehow felt more powerful than shouting. "Excuse me," Linda said in the polite voice she used when she was furious, "but why is Melody wearing Danette's wedding dress?" Patricia launched into her explanation about Melody's depression and the need for both daughters to feel special, but Linda held up a hand to stop her. "Patricia, with respect, this is not appropriate. Today is Danette's wedding day. She's paid for this dress, planned this ceremony, and invited guests to celebrate her marriage to my son. What you're suggesting isn't fair or reasonable." "What I'm suggesting," Patricia said, her voice taking on the sharp edge it got when someone challenged her authority, "is that families support each other. Melody is family. She deserves to feel beautiful and loved, especially after what she's been through." "Then buy her a beautiful dress for another occasion," Linda replied calmly. "Don't steal her sister's wedding day to do it." Melody, who had been admiring herself in the mirror throughout this conversation, suddenly began crying. Not the quiet tears of genuine emotion, but the dramatic sobbing she'd perfected as a child to get out of trouble. "Nobody loves me," she wailed. "Nobody wants me to be happy. Brandon broke up with me, I can't find a job, and now my own family thinks I'm terrible for wanting to feel pretty for one day. Melody, honey." Patricia rushed to embrace her, shooting accusatory looks at Linda and me. "Don't listen to them. You are beautiful and you deserve to feel special." My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Where are you?" "Guests are starting to arrive and Courtney showed up. She's telling people I still love her and that our marriage is a mistake. I need you here." Courtney, Tyler's estranged sister who'd been cut off from the family 3 years ago for stealing money from their elderly grandmother. She'd been specifically not invited to our wedding, but apparently she'd decided to attend anyway. I showed the text to Linda, who read it with growing concern. "This is becoming a circus," she said quietly. "Tyler doesn't need to deal with family drama while you're dealing with family drama." "I need to call him," I said, but Patricia interrupted. "Danette, if you force Melody to take off this dress, I will call every single wedding guest and tell them how selfish and cruel you've been to your heartbroken sister. Is that really how you want people to remember your wedding day?" The threat hung in the air like smoke from a fire that was about to consume everything I'd worked for. Robert cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Maybe," he said slowly, "maybe both girls could wear wedding dresses. Maybe we could make this a double celebration." The suggestion hit the room like a bomb. Jessica gasped, Linda's mouth fell open, and I felt something crack inside my chest. "A double celebration." I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not a double wedding," Robert clarified quickly, "but maybe Melody could walk down the aisle too. Maybe she could stand beside you during the ceremony, like a family unity thing. Linda stood up abruptly. I need to speak with Danette privately, she announced, then gently guided me out of the room and down the hallway to the guest bathroom. Once the door was closed, she took my hands in hers. Sweetheart, I need to tell you something Tyler asked me not to mention unless it became necessary. My heart pounded. What? Courtney didn't just show up randomly today. Someone paid her $300 to come to your wedding and cause trouble. Tyler found the text messages on her phone. Someone wanted your wedding disrupted. The words didn't make sense at first. Paid her. Who would pay her? Linda's expression was grim. We don't know yet, but Tyler's handling it at the venue. The question is, are you going to let whoever orchestrated this chaos win? Are you going to let them destroy your wedding day? As we spoke, I could hear Melody's continued sobbing from my bedroom, Patricia's soothing voice, and Jessica arguing with both of them. My wedding day, the day I'd dreamed about and planned for months, was disintegrating into a family therapy session where I was somehow the villain for wanting to wear my own dress to my own ceremony. But Linda's revelation about Courtney added a new dimension to the crisis. Someone wanted this wedding to fail. Someone had paid for that sabotage. The question was whether the sabotage was coming from outside my family or from within it. When Linda and I returned to my bedroom, the scene had deteriorated further. Melody was now sitting on my bed, still wearing my dress, while Patricia brushed her hair with my antique silver hairbrush, another family heirloom that was supposed to be part of my wedding day preparation. I've been thinking, Melody said, her tears mysteriously dried, and maybe Daddy's right. Maybe we could both be special today. We could walk down the aisle together like twins or something. We could be co-brides. Whoa, brides! I repeated the words, feeling foreign in my mouth. It would be so beautiful, Patricia gushed, warming to the idea. Both my daughters radiant and happy, sharing the most important day of their lives. I already called the photographer and told him to bring extra film for pictures of both brides. The room spun around me. You called the photographer without asking me. I was being proactive, Patricia said defensively. Good thing too, since you're being so difficult about sharing. My phone rang. Tyler's name appeared on the screen and I answered with shaking hands. Danette, where are you? His voice was strained, exhausted. The guests are asking questions, Courtney is making a scene, and the minister wants to know if we're still having a ceremony. What's going on? My family. I started, then stopped. How could I explain this insanity? Tyler Melody is wearing my wedding dress, and my mother wants her to be a co-bride at our ceremony. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Tyler finally spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. Come again. My sister altered my dress to fit her. She's been posting on social media, pretending to marry Brandon, and now my mother thinks we should share the ceremony. Danette, Tyler said slowly, I need you to listen carefully. Courtney admitted that someone in your family paid her to disrupt our wedding. She showed me the text messages. Someone wanted this chaos to happen. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, but Jessica caught it before it hit the floor. Tyler, she said into the phone, it's Jessica. Can you repeat what you just said? Tyler's voice was loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. Someone from Danette's family paid my sister $300 to come to the wedding and tell people I was still in love with her. Courtney has the text messages and the Venmo payment. Patricia's face went white. Robert looked like he might be sick. Melody stopped admiring herself in the mirror. Who? I whispered. Who paid her? The payment came from an account under the name P. Stevens, Tyler said. Everyone in the room looked at Patricia. Her maiden name was Stevens. Patricia stammered, I don't know what you're talking about. Mom, I said, my voice breaking, did you pay Courtney to ruin my wedding? I didn't want to ruin it, Patricia said quickly, tears starting to form in her eyes. I just thought if there were some complications, maybe we could postpone the ceremony. Maybe give Melody time to get over her heartbreak. Maybe let her have this one day to feel special. The words hit me like a physical assault. My own mother had sabotaged my wedding day to accommodate my sister's depression. She'd paid a woman with a history of theft and addiction to come to my ceremony and tell lies about my fiancé. She'd orchestrated this entire disaster so that Melody could wear my dress and play bride for a day. You paid someone to destroy my marriage, I said numbly. I paid someone to delay it, Patricia corrected, as if that made it better. Just long enough for Melody to feel better about herself. The sound that came from my throat wasn't quite human. It was the sound of every suppressed scream from my childhood, every swallowed protest, every moment when I'd been told to be strong and understanding while my sister got everything she wanted. Car doors slammed outside again, and through the chaos of my disintegrating family, I heard a familiar voice calling my name. Uncle Frank, Patricia's younger brother, had arrived early to help with setup. He climbed the stairs with his usual energy, then stopped dead when he saw the tableau in my bedroom. Frank was everything Patricia wasn't. Where she was dramatic, he was steady. Where she manipulated, he spoke directly. Where she enabled, he held people accountable. He'd been my ally throughout childhood, the one adult who seemed to notice when the family dynamics got twisted. "What fresh hell is this?" Frank asked, taking in Melody's appearance and the tears on everyone's faces. "Frank, thank goodness," Patricia started, but he held up a hand. "Patricia, why is Melody wearing Danette's wedding dress?" "She's having a hard time." Patricia began the familiar explanation, but Frank interrupted. "And why does that require wearing her sister's wedding dress?" "We thought maybe both girls could feel special today." Frank looked around the room, his gaze landing on each person before settling back on Patricia. "Did you really just suggest that Danette share her wedding day with Melody because Melody's sad?" "Melody is depressed," Patricia said defensively. "Melody is 22 years old and needs to learn how to handle disappointment without stealing other people's special occasions," Frank replied flatly. Jessica, who had been quietly documenting everything on her phone, suddenly looked up with horror. "Oh my God, Danette! Look at your credit card statement!" She handed me her phone, showing my banking app that I'd logged into earlier to check the payment to the florist. The recent transactions made my stomach drop. $500 at David's Bridal, $200 at a jewelry store, $150 at a spa. All charges from the past week, all on my credit card. "Melody," I said slowly, "did you use my credit card?" She had the grace to look embarrassed. "I just needed a few things to go with the dress. Shoes, jewelry, a hair appointment. I was going to pay you back." "With what money?" Frank demanded. "You don't have a job." "I'm looking for one," Melody said sullenly. "You've been looking for 8 months," Frank pointed out. "Meanwhile, you're stealing from your sister and playing dress-up with her wedding." "I'm not stealing," Melody protested. "We're family. Family shares." "Family shares dessert, not wedding days," Frank said dryly. Tyler's voice came from Jessica's phone, which was still connected to our call. "Can someone please explain what's happening? I've got a church full of confused guests and a minister who's threatening to leave if we don't start the ceremony in the next hour." Frank took the phone. "Tyler, this is Frank. How bad is the situation at the venue?" "Well, your mother paid my estranged sister to tell people I'm still in love with her. Half the guests think there's been some kind of family emergency, and the other half think Danette ran away. Also, the photographer is asking about taking pictures of 2 brides, which makes no sense to anyone." Frank looked at Patricia with disgust. "You called the photographer—" "I was trying to be helpful," Patricia said weakly. "You were trying to steal your daughter's wedding for your other daughter's therapy," Frank corrected. "This is a new low even for you." I sank onto the chair by my vanity, still wearing the jeans and t-shirt I'd thrown on that morning, surrounded by the chaos of my destroyed wedding day. In 3 hours, I was supposed to be walking down the aisle toward the man I loved, surrounded by friends and family who supported our union. Instead, I was trapped in a bedroom with a sister wearing my dress, a mother who'd sabotaged my ceremony, a father too weak to intervene, and the growing realization that my entire family was more invested in Melody's feelings than in my happiness. "Frank," I said quietly, "did you know about any of this?" "Absolutely not," he said firmly. "If I had, I would have stopped it before it started." Tyler's voice came through the phone again. "Danette, I need to know what you want to do. Do we proceed with the ceremony? Do we postpone? Or do we call the whole thing off? Because right now I've got your cousin asking if there's been a death in the family and your college roommate wondering if you got cold feet." The choice stretched before me like a crossroads. I could give in to Patricia's manipulation, let Melody have her co-bride moment, and try to salvage some kind of ceremony from the wreckage. I could postpone the wedding and deal with the family dysfunction later. Or I could do something I'd never done before in my entire life. I could fight back. "Frank," I said, standing up from the vanity chair with a clarity I hadn't felt all day, "I need you to call every relative who's supposed to be at this wedding. I need you to ask them about the gifts they brought for Melody." Frank's eyes widened with understanding. "You think there are more surprises?" "Tyler, stay on the phone." I called toward Jessica's phone. "I need you to hear this." Within 15 minutes, Frank had made 6 phone calls. The results were devastating. Aunt Margaret had brought a crystal vase specifically for Melody's new home with Brandon. Cousin David had written a check for $500 made out to Mr. and Mrs. Brandon Walsh. Great Aunt Susan had driven 4 hours from Pennsylvania with her grandmother's china set wrapped in tissue paper and marked, "For Melody's new beginning." Each phone call revealed another layer of Patricia's deception. She hadn't just allowed people to assume Melody was getting married. She'd actively encouraged it. She'd given out a fake address for the happy couple's new apartment. She'd created a gift registry at 3 different stores. She'd even provided details about a honeymoon to Myrtle Beach. "Patricia," Frank said after the final call, his voice deadly calm, "you've been running a con for weeks." "I haven't been running anything," Patricia protested. "I just let people make their own assumptions." "You created a gift registry using Tyler's last name," Jessica said, showing us the evidence on her phone. "You told people where the fictitious couple was going on their honeymoon. You gave Aunt Margaret directions to an apartment complex where Melody supposedly lives with Brandon." "I was helping Melody feel hopeful about the future," Patricia said desperately. Robert, who had been silent throughout Frank's phone calls, suddenly spoke up. "Patricia, this has gone too far. This isn't helping Melody. This is enabling her fantasy thinking, and it's destroying Danette's wedding day." "Oh, now you have an opinion," Patricia snapped at her husband. "Where was your opinion when I was planning this for weeks? Where was your backbone when I needed support?" "I thought you were just going to let her wear a nice dress," Robert said weakly. "I didn't know about the rest of it." "You knew enough," Frank said grimly. "You knew your daughter was altering Danette's wedding dress. You knew Patricia was making phone calls to relatives. You chose not to ask questions because you didn't want to deal with the answers." Tyler's voice cut through the family argument from Jessica's phone. "Danette, I'm coming home. Courtney left after I confronted her about the payment. Most of the guests are confused but patient, and the minister agreed to wait another hour. But I'm not staying at that venue while my future wife fights this battle alone." "No," I said firmly. "Don't leave the venue. I'm going to fix this." "How?" Tyler asked. I looked around the room at my family. Patricia still defending her indefensible actions. Robert finally showing some backbone, but 20 years too late. Melody sitting on my bed in my wedding dress like she belonged there. Frank and Jessica, the only two people who seemed to understand how wrong this situation had become. "Jessica, are you recording this?" I asked. "Everything," she confirmed. "Good, because I want evidence of what happens next." I walked over to Melody, who looked up at me with those big eyes that had gotten her out of trouble her entire life. "Melody, you have 60 seconds to take off my dress." "Danette, please," she started, but I held up my hand. "You have 55 seconds. If that dress is not off your body and hanging in my closet in 55 seconds, I am calling the police and reporting it stolen." "You wouldn't," Patricia gasped. 50 seconds. I continued, ignoring my mother. "I am also calling every relative who brought you a gift and explaining that you are not engaged, not getting married, and not entitled to their generosity based on lies." "Danette, you're being cruel," Patricia pleaded. 45 seconds. I am then going to post on social media using the photos Jessica has taken explaining exactly what happened here today. Everyone who follows any of us will know that you stole your sister's wedding dress and that Mom paid Tyler's estranged sister to disrupt our ceremony. Melody started crying again, but they were different tears this time. Real tears. Scared tears. 40 seconds. After that, I am going to proceed with my wedding, which will take place exactly as planned, with exactly the people who actually support my marriage. Anyone who chooses to prioritize your feelings over my wedding day will not be welcome at the ceremony. "You can't ban your own mother from your wedding," Patricia said, but her voice lacked conviction. 35 seconds, try me. Frank stepped forward. "Patricia, tell her to take off the dress." "I can't," Patricia said, tears streaming down her face. "She'll be so hurt." "She'll be hurt," Robert finally exploded. "What about Danette? What about her hurt? What about the fact that she's been planning this day for months and you've turned it into a circus?" 30 seconds, Melody. Tyler's voice came through the phone strong and clear. "Danette, whatever you decide, I support you completely. If you want to postpone this wedding to deal with your family, we'll postpone it. If you want to elope to Vegas tonight, we'll do that. If you want to proceed with the ceremony but ban people who don't respect our marriage, I'll back you up. This is our decision, not theirs." His words gave me the strength I needed. 25 seconds, Melody. "I can't get out of it by myself," Melody wailed. "The buttons are too small." "Then ask someone to help you," I said. 20 seconds. Jessica moved toward Melody. "I'll help you," she said quietly. "No," Patricia stepped between them. "I won't allow this. Melody, you stay right where you are." 15 seconds. Frank pulled out his own phone. "Patricia, I'm calling the police myself. This has become theft, fraud, and harassment." 10 seconds. "Fine," Patricia screamed. "Fine, you selfish, heartless, cruel daughter. Melody, take off the dress." 5 seconds. But instead of helping Melody with the buttons, Patricia grabbed my wedding dress by the shoulders and pulled, threatening to tear the delicate fabric. "If she can't wear it," Patricia said through her tears, "then nobody can." That's when Robert finally found his spine. "Patricia Stevens," he said in a voice I'd never heard before, "let go of that dress right now, or I am leaving this house and filing for divorce tomorrow morning." The threat hung in the air like a thunderclap. In 32 years of marriage, Robert had never threatened divorce. He'd never even threatened to sleep in the guest room. Patricia's hands froze on the dress. "I have been watching you destroy our family for years," Robert continued, his voice growing stronger. "I have watched you manipulate our children, pit them against each other, and turn every family event into a drama where you get to play the victim or the hero. I have enabled it, I have excused it, and I have been a coward about it. But I will not watch you destroy Danette's wedding day for Melody's emotional gratification." "Robert," Patricia whispered. Let go of the dress, Patricia. Help Melody take it off. Apologize to Danette, and start acting like a mother instead of like Melody's enabling best friend." "And if I don't?" Patricia asked. "Then you'll be my ex-wife by Friday." The room fell completely silent except for the sound of Melody crying and the faint noise of Tyler's voice still coming through Jessica's phone. Patricia's hand slowly released my wedding dress. "Jessica," Robert said, "please help Melody out of the dress." "Thank you," I whispered to my father, seeing him clearly for the first time in years. But our family dysfunction had one more surprise in store. As Jessica began unbuttoning the back of my dress, Patricia suddenly bolted from the room. We heard her footsteps running down the hallway, then the sound of the bathroom door slamming and the lock clicking into place. She had locked herself in the bathroom with the key. From inside, we could hear her voice muffled but clear. "I'm not coming out until Melody gets to be part of this wedding. I don't care if it takes all day. I'm not letting you destroy her self-esteem." Frank looked at his watch. "The ceremony is supposed to start in 45 minutes. Tyler's voice came through the phone. "Danette, what's happening now? I can hear yelling." "My mother just locked herself in the bathroom," I said numbly. "She's holding my wedding hostage until Melody gets to be a co-bride." The silence on Tyler's end of the phone was broken by what sounded like laughter. "Tyler," I said, "are you laughing?" "I'm sorry," he said, "but this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Your mother is barricading herself in a bathroom to force your sister to be part of our wedding." "It's not funny," I said, but I could hear the hysteria in my own voice. "It's a little funny," Frank said dryly, "in a completely insane family dysfunction kind of way." From the bathroom, Patricia's voice rose. "I can hear you all talking about me. I'm not coming out until you agree to let Melody feel special." Jessica finished unbuttoning my dress, and Melody stepped out of it with tears streaming down her face. For the first time since I'd walked into my bedroom, she looked like my little sister instead of a bride. She looked young and lost, and genuinely sorry. "Danette," Melody said quietly, "I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't know Mom paid someone to mess up your wedding. I just wanted to feel pretty." "I know," I said, taking my dress from Jessica's hands, "but wanting to feel pretty doesn't justify wearing someone else's wedding dress." "I know," she repeated, then looked toward the bathroom door. "Mom's lost it, hasn't she?" From behind the locked door, Patricia's voice had taken on a sing-song quality. "I'm waiting. I have all day. I have magazines in here and a comfortable seat." Robert looked at Frank with resignation. "She's really not coming out." "Then we go around her," Frank said practically. "Tyler, are you still there?" "Still here," Tyler confirmed from the phone. "Do you know any locksmiths?" "My buddy Jake does residential locks. I could call him." "Do it," Frank said. "And Tyler, drive home. Your bride needs you here." "On my way," Tyler said, and the call ended. I held my wedding dress against my chest, feeling the weight of the silk and the delicate beadwork. In 30 minutes, I was supposed to be the most beautiful version of myself, walking toward the man I loved, while surrounded by people who cared about our future together. Instead, I was standing in my childhood bedroom, still wearing jeans and a t-shirt, while my mother held my wedding day hostage from inside a bathroom. But something had shifted in the room. Robert had finally stood up to Patricia. Melody had apologized and seemed to genuinely understand the magnitude of her actions. Frank and Jessica were problem-solving instead of enabling. For the first time in my life, I had allies in my own family. The question was whether it was enough and whether it was too late. Tyler arrived at our house in record time, still wearing his black suit, but with his tie loosened and his hair disheveled from running his hands through it. When he walked into my bedroom and saw me holding my wedding dress still in my jeans, with the sound of Patricia's defiant singing coming from the locked bathroom, he didn't ask for explanations. He just pulled me into his arms. "Are you okay?" he whispered against my hair. I don't know, I admitted. My whole family is insane. Not your whole family, Frank corrected, then gestured toward the bathroom door. Just the one currently holding your wedding dress hostage. Tyler's friend Jake arrived 20 minutes later with a small bag of tools and a bewildered expression. He was a compact man with steady hands and the kind of practical demeanor that comes from solving other people's problems for a living. So, Jake said, surveying the situation, someone's locked in the bathroom and won't come out. My mother-in-law, Tyler explained. She's demanding that my fiancé's sister be included in our wedding ceremony as a co-bride, and she's refusing to unlock the door until we agree. Jake blinked. A co-bride. It's been a difficult day, Frank said diplomatically. Right, Jake said, then got to work on the door handle. This'll take about 10 minutes. While Jake worked, Patricia's voice continued to drift from the bathroom. She'd moved from singing to talking, apparently giving herself a pep talk about standing firm in her convictions and protecting Melody's emotional well-being. Occasionally, she'd call out to us asking if we were ready to be reasonable. Melody sat on my bed now wearing one of my old t-shirts and a pair of jeans Frank had grabbed from her room. She'd removed grandmother's earrings and placed them carefully on my vanity next to the silver hairbrush she'd been using. Without the dress and jewelry, she looked her age again, young and somewhat lost, but no longer like she was playing dress-up with my life. Danette, she said quietly, I need to tell you something. I looked up from where I'd been trying to steam wrinkles out of my dress. What? I knew Mom was planning something. I didn't know about paying Courtney, but I knew she'd called relatives and told them things. I knew she'd set up gift registries. I should have stopped her. Why didn't you? Melody was quiet for a long moment. Because it felt good to have people excited for me. It felt good to have Mom making plans and treating me like I was special. I felt so stupid since Brandon broke up with me, so worthless, and this whole thing made me feel important again. It was the most honest thing Melody had said all day, but it was based on lies. I know, and I'm sorry. Not just sorry that I got caught, but really sorry that I was willing to hurt you to make myself feel better. Robert, who had been standing by the window watching for Jake's truck, turned around. Melody, I owe you an apology too. You do? She asked, surprised. I should have gotten you into therapy after your breakup instead of letting your mother enable your fantasy thinking. I should have insisted you find a job or go back to school instead of letting you drift. I should have been a parent instead of just a referee between you and your mother. Tyler looked up from his phone where he'd been texting updates to the wedding guests. Speaking of therapy, I think we all might benefit from some family counseling after this is over. That's a conversation for another day, Frank said. Right now we need to decide what happens next. Jake's voice came from the hallway. Got it, he announced, and the bathroom door swung open. Patricia emerged with her hair slightly messed and her makeup smudged, but her chin held high like she'd accomplished something noble. She looked around the room, taking in Melody's changed clothes and my dress hanging from the closet door. I see you made Melody change, she said accusingly. Melody chose to change, Robert corrected, after she apologized for wearing her sister's wedding dress. Patricia looked at Melody with betrayal. You apologized. Mom, what we did was wrong, Melody said firmly. Danette didn't deserve this. What we did, Patricia repeated slowly, was try to help you heal from heartbreak. What you did, Frank corrected, was steal your daughter's wedding day and try to give it to your other daughter. There's a difference. Patricia looked around the room, seeing for the first time that she was outnumbered. Even Melody, her usual ally, was no longer supporting her position. Fine, Patricia said, her voice brittle. Fine, you all think I'm the villain here. You think I'm some terrible mother for wanting both my daughters to be happy. We think you're a mother who's lost perspective, Robert said gently. and we think you need to apologize to Danette and step back so she can have her wedding day. Apologize for loving my children. Apologize for sabotaging one child's happiness to accommodate the other child's feelings. Tyler said, his voice calm but firm. Apologize for paying my sister to disrupt our wedding. Apologize for creating a fake engagement and accepting gifts under false pretenses. Patricia's face crumpled. For a moment, she looked genuinely remorseful, and I felt a flicker of hope that we might still salvage this disaster. She started, then stopped. I just wanted Melody to feel loved. At Danette's expense, Frank pointed out. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far, I said, speaking directly to my mother for the first time since the bathroom standoff. It went so far that you were willing to destroy my marriage to protect Melody's feelings. It went so far that you paid someone to lie about my fiancé. It went so far that you convinced our relatives to bring gifts for a wedding that doesn't exist. Patricia looked at me with tears in her eyes. I love you too, Danette. I love both my daughters. Then prove it, I said. Let me have my wedding day. Let me get married without any more drama or manipulation or attempts to include Melody in something that isn't about her. But she's so heartbroken, Patricia whispered. And that's something she needs to work through with a therapist, not by wearing my wedding dress, I replied. Patricia looked around the room one more time, taking in the faces of her husband, her brother, her daughters, and her future son-in-law. Whatever she saw there seemed to deflate her fight. What do you want me to do? She asked quietly. Tyler checked his phone. The ceremony was supposed to start 15 minutes ago. The guests are patient, but they're confused. The minister is waiting. The photographer is setting up. We need to make a decision. I looked at my wedding dress hanging in the closet, then at the people gathered in my childhood bedroom. Frank, who had driven 3 hours to support my wedding. Jessica, who had documented everything to protect me. Tyler, who had left his own wedding venue to stand by me. Robert, who had finally found his backbone when it mattered most. Even Melody, who had admitted her mistakes and seemed genuinely sorry. And Patricia, who had orchestrated this entire disaster, but was finally maybe ready to let it end. I want to get married, I said. I want to put on my dress, drive to the church, and marry Tyler like we planned. I want the family members who can support that to be there with us, and I want the family members who can't support that to stay home. Danette. Patricia said, you can't ban your mother from your wedding. I'm not banning you, I said. I'm giving you a choice. You can come to my wedding as my mother supportive and appropriate, or you can stay home and continue this tantrum. But you cannot come to my wedding and continue to push for Melody to be included as a co-bride. That option is off the table forever. What if, Patricia said desperately, what if Melody just walked you down the aisle? What if she just stood with the bridesmaids? What if she just had some small role? Mom, Melody said quietly, stop. Let Danette have her day. Patricia looked at her youngest daughter with surprise and something that might have been pride. You really think I should back down? I think you should be the mother of the bride, Melody said. Not the mother of the co-bride, just the regular mother of the bride supporting her daughter on her wedding day. Frank clapped slowly. There's hope for this family yet. Tyler looked at his watch. We have 30 minutes to get to the church if we want to salvage the ceremony time. Danette, what's it going to be? I looked at my family, damaged, but maybe not irreparable. I looked at Tyler, patient and supportive despite the chaos. I looked at my wedding dress, beautiful and waiting. I'm getting married, I said. Anyone who wants to celebrate that with us is welcome. Anyone who wants to create more drama can stay home. Patricia nodded slowly. I'll be there, as your mother. Just your mother. Good, I said, then looked around the room. Everyone out. I need to get ready, and I need to do it without any more family meetings or crisis negotiations. Frank headed for the door first. I'll drive to the church and explain to the guests that there was a family emergency, but everything's resolved now. I'll come with you, Robert said. I should talk to the relatives about the gifts they brought for Melody. Tyler kissed my forehead. I'll see you at the altar. Jessica started gathering her bridesmaid accessories. I'll get ready in the guest room and keep an eye on things. Melody hesitated at the door. Danette. Thank you for giving me a chance to do the right thing. Thank you for finally doing it, I replied. Patricia was the last to leave. She stopped at the door and turned back. I really do love you, sweetheart. I really did want your day to be special. I know, I said, but next time you want to help someone feel special, don't do it by taking away someone else's special day. Next time, Patricia said quietly, I'll ask first. When the door finally closed and I was alone in my childhood bedroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. I was still wearing jeans and a t-shirt. My hair was disheveled, my makeup was smudged, and I was getting married in 25 minutes. But for the first time all day, I was actually excited about it. Getting ready in 20 minutes should have been impossible, but Jessica proved why she'd been my best friend since childhood. She returned to my room with her bridesmaid dress already on my makeup kit in one hand and her curling iron in the other. Shower, she commanded. 2 minutes just to wash off the stress sweat. I'll set up your makeup station. I emerged from the fastest shower of my life to find Jessica had transformed my vanity into a professional makeup station. She'd also laid out my dress shoes and accessories with military precision. Sit, she ordered, wielding a foundation brush like a weapon. We're doing emergency wedding prep. As Jessica worked on my makeup, she filled me in on what had happened downstairs. Frank and your dad left for the church. Tyler went home to change shirts because he sweated through his first one. Melody is helping your mom get ready, and they're actually having what sounds like a productive conversation about boundaries and therapy. And the photographer called Tyler and confirmed the ceremony is still happening. He's waiting at the church and promises to get beautiful pictures despite the time crunch. Jessica's hands were steady and sure as she applied concealer under my eyes and highlighter on my cheekbones. You know, in some weird way, this whole disaster might have been exactly what your family needed. How do you figure? Well, your dad finally stood up to your mom. Your mom finally saw how her enabling was hurting everyone. Melody finally took responsibility for her actions, and you finally set boundaries that everyone has to respect. She had a point. As dysfunctional as this day had been, it had also forced conversations that were 30 years overdue. Okay, makeup done. Hair time. Jessica worked quickly, pinning my hair into an elegant updo that looked like it had taken hours instead of 8 minutes. She secured it with my grandmother's pearl hairpins, another family heirloom that had actually made it to its intended purpose. Dress, she announced. The silk slid over my skin like water. Jessica fastened the delicate pearl buttons along my spine, then stepped back to survey her work. You look beautiful, she said softly. I turned to look in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Despite everything that had happened, despite the chaos and tears and family confrontations, I looked like a bride. I looked happy. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Danette, Tyler's voice called. I hate to rush you, but we really need to leave if we want to get married today. Coming, I called back, then looked at Jessica. Ready. Ready. We gathered my purse, Tyler's ring, and the small bouquet of white roses I'd picked up from the florist that morning. As we headed downstairs, I could hear voices from the living room. Patricia and Melody were sitting on the couch talking quietly. Patricia had changed into her mother of the bride dress, an elegant navy suit she'd bought specifically for my wedding. Melody was wearing a simple sundress and looked more like herself than she had all day. You look beautiful, sweetheart, Patricia said when she saw me. Thank you. I've been talking to your sister about therapy, Patricia continued, and about getting a job, and about the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. Melody nodded. I'm going to pay back the money I charged to your credit card. It might take a while, but I'll get a job and pay it all back. Okay, I said, touched by her sincerity. Tyler appeared in the doorway freshly showered and wearing a clean dress shirt under his black suit. When he saw me, his face lit up with the kind of smile that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with him in the first place. Wow, he said simply. Ready to get married? I asked. I've been ready all day, he replied, then looked around the room. Are we all good here? No more family emergencies or wedding hijackings. We're good, Patricia said firmly. Today is Danette's day. Our day, Tyler corrected gently. But yes, it's finally our day. The drive to the church was surprisingly peaceful. Tyler drove while I sat in the passenger seat, Jessica in the back, with my dress carefully arranged around me. Patricia and Melody followed in their own car, and for the first time since I'd woken up that morning, I felt like we were actually going to a wedding instead of a family intervention. The church parking lot was full, which was both reassuring and terrifying. All these people had waited through confusion and delays to celebrate with us. I just hoped Frank had been able to explain the situation without making us sound completely insane. You ready for this? Tyler asked as he parked the car. I'm ready, I said, and meant it. But as we walked toward the church entrance, Frank appeared with an expression I didn't recognize. We have a problem, he said quietly. My heart sank. What now? It's not your family this time, Frank said quickly. It's the gifts. The gifts? The relatives who brought presents for Melody's fake wedding. They're confused about whether to leave them or take them home. Some of them are upset about being misled. A couple of them are demanding to know if Melody is actually engaged or if the whole thing was a lie. I closed my eyes. Even when we solved one crisis, another one emerged. How bad is it? Well, Great Aunt Susan drove 4 hours with her grandmother's china set for Melody's new home. When Robert explained that Melody isn't getting married, she accused our family of running a gift-grabbing scam. She's threatening to leave unless someone explains what's really going on. Tyler squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out. There's more, Frank continued grimly. Cousin David wrote a $500 check made out to Mr. and Mrs. Brandon Walsh. When he found out Brandon and Melody broke up 6 weeks ago, he got suspicious and started asking other relatives what gifts they brought. Now half the family thinks Melody was trying to commit some kind of fraud. Because she was, Jessica said bluntly. The point is, Frank continued, we have a church full of confused, upset relatives who want answers before the ceremony can proceed. And some of them are talking about leaving. I looked at Tyler, then at the church where our wedding guests were waiting. What do you think we should do? I think, Tyler said slowly, that we go in there, tell the truth, and let people decide for themselves whether they want to stay or go. The truth? That your sister was heartbroken and made some poor choices, that your mother enabled those choices, that gifts were given under false pretenses, and that anyone who wants their gift back can absolutely have it. But that despite all of that, we're still two people who love each other and want to get married. Patricia, who had been listening from a few feet away, stepped forward. I'll explain everything, she said. This is my mess and I'll clean it up. Mom, you don't have to, I started, but she held up her hand. Yes, I do. I created this situation and I need to face the consequences. You shouldn't have to spend your wedding day apologizing for my mistakes. Tyler looked at his watch. The ceremony was supposed to start 45 minutes ago. If we're going to do this, we need to do it now. I looked at my family, then at Tyler, then at the church where our friends and relatives waited. Okay, let's go tell the truth. Walking into that church was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Every face that turned toward us held a mixture of confusion, concern, and curiosity. The whispered conversations died as we made our way down the aisle, and I could feel the weight of everyone's questions. Frank had set up a microphone at the front of the church. Patricia walked to it with her shoulders back and her chin up, looking more dignified than she had all day. "Friends and family." She began, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "I owe you all an explanation and an apology." For the next 10 minutes, Patricia told the truth. All of it. She explained about Melody's depression following her breakup, about the altered wedding dress, about the fake engagement and gift registries, about her own misguided attempts to help one daughter at the expense of the other. She apologized to each relative by name for misleading them about gifts offered to help return or redirect presents, and took full responsibility for the chaos. When she finished, the church was completely silent. Then Great Aunt Susan stood up. "Patricia," she said in her commanding voice, "that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." My heart sank. "But," Susan continued, "it was also honest, and I appreciate honesty even when it comes this late in the game." She looked around the church, then at me. "Danette, do you still want to get married today?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Tyler, do you still want to marry her?" "Absolutely." "Then let's have a wedding," Susan announced. "Lord knows we've waited long enough for it." A murmur of agreement rippled through the church. Cousin David stood up next. "I'll take my check back and write a new one for Tyler and Danette's actual wedding," he said loudly. Other relatives nodded and voiced similar sentiments. Within minutes, the mood in the church had shifted from confusion and anger to something that felt like relief and even amusement. "Well," Tyler whispered as we took our positions at the front of the church, "that was unexpected." "Good unexpected or bad unexpected," I whispered back. "Definitely good," he said, then looked toward the back of the church where the minister was finally taking his position. "Are you ready to actually get married now?" "I've been ready all day," I said, echoing his earlier words. And for the first time since I'd woken up that morning, I was telling the complete truth. The ceremony itself was perfect in its simplicity. After hours of family drama, toxic manipulation, and emotional chaos, standing in front of our friends and family while Tyler and I exchanged vows felt like stepping into a pocket of peace. Tyler's vows were personal and heartfelt, referencing the challenges we'd already faced together and his commitment to building a marriage based on mutual respect and clear boundaries. When he mentioned choosing love over dysfunction, I caught Patricia wiping tears from her eyes. My vows focused on partnership honesty and the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely wanted our relationship to succeed. I promised to choose our marriage over family drama, to communicate clearly about my needs and boundaries, and to build a life that honored both our individual growth and our shared dreams. When the minister pronounced us husband and wife, the church erupted in applause that felt genuine and joyful. Tyler's kiss was gentle and full of promise. And as we walked back down the aisle as Mr. and Mrs. Tyler Brooks, I felt like I was finally living my own life instead of managing everyone else's emotions. The reception was held in the church fellowship hall, decorated with simple white flowers and string lights that cast a warm glow over the celebration. The photographer captured genuine moments of happiness, and for the first time in years, our family photos showed real smiles instead of forced pleasantries. Frank gave a beautiful speech about the importance of choosing family members who support your growth rather than those who demand you stay small for their comfort. Jessica's maid of honor speech brought tears to everyone's eyes as she talked about friendship loyalty and the courage it takes to stand up for what's right. But it was Robert's speech that surprised everyone the most. "I want to apologize to my daughter Danette," he said, standing at the microphone with a shaking voice. "I spent too many years being a peacekeeper instead of a protector. I let my wife enable our youngest daughter at our middle daughter's expense, and I told myself I was keeping the peace when really I was just avoiding conflict. Danette, You deserved a father who stood up for you, and I failed you in that regard. I'm proud of the woman you've become despite my failures, not because of anything I taught you." The room was completely silent except for the sound of people crying. "I'm also proud to welcome Tyler into our family," Robert continued. "You've shown me what real partnership looks like, and I hope I can learn from your example as Patricia and I work on repairing our marriage." Patricia's speech was shorter, but equally powerful. She apologized again for her actions, acknowledged the difference between supporting and enabling, and promised to seek therapy to understand why she'd been willing to sacrifice one daughter's happiness for another daughter's temporary comfort. "Melody has agreed to attend counseling with me," Patricia said, looking toward my sister. "And we're both committed to building healthier relationships with everyone in this family." Melody herself chose not to make a speech, but she approached Tyler and me during the reception with a small wrapped gift. "I know I already gave you a wedding present," she said quietly, "but this one is different." Inside the box was a handwritten letter of apology and a check for $500. "It's not enough to cover everything I charged to your credit card," Melody explained, "but it's a start. I got a job at the coffee shop downtown, and I'll pay you back $25 every week until it's all gone." "Melody, you don't have to—" I started, but she interrupted. "Yes, I do. I do have to take responsibility for my actions and make things right. That's what adults do, and it's time I started acting like one." Tyler put his arm around me as we watched Melody walk back to her table. "She seems different," he observed. "Maybe crisis was exactly what she needed to grow up," I replied. The evening continued with dancing laughter and the kind of genuine family connection I'd always hoped for but rarely experienced. Great Aunt Susan regaled everyone with stories of family weddings from decades past, including one where the bride's sister tried to elope with the groom's brother during the reception. Cousin David taught Tyler's younger cousins a complicated card game that kept them entertained for hours. As Tyler and I danced our first dance as a married couple, he whispered in my ear, "Was it worth it? All the drama and chaos and family confrontations?" I looked around the room at our friends and family celebrating together, at Patricia and Robert, having what appeared to be a serious but loving conversation at their table, at Melody serving cake to elderly relatives, with genuine smiles at Frank and Jessica, comparing notes about the day's events with expressions of amazement and relief. "It was worth it," I said. "Not because of the drama, but because of what came after. Because we finally told the truth and set boundaries and refused to let dysfunction win." "And because we're married now," Tyler added with a grin. "And because we're married now," I agreed. 6 months later, the changes in our family dynamics were remarkable. Patricia had been attending individual therapy and couples counseling with Robert, working to understand her patterns of manipulation and favoritism. She'd also started volunteering at a local crisis center, channeling her desire to help people in distress into more appropriate outlets. Robert had found his voice in their marriage and was actively working to repair his relationships with both his daughters. He'd started taking Melody to lunch once a week to talk about her goals and provide the kind of parental guidance he'd abdicated for years. Melody had kept her word about therapy and employment. She'd not only paid back the money she'd charged to my credit card, but she'd also saved enough to move into her own apartment. She was dating someone new, a coworker who encouraged her independence rather than feeding her need for drama. Tyler and I had used our experience to establish clear boundaries with both our families about what kind of behavior we would and wouldn't tolerate in our marriage. We'd learned to present a united front when dealing with family dysfunction and to choose each other over keeping the peace with relatives who didn't respect our relationship. On our 6-month anniversary, I wore grandmother's diamond earrings to dinner, and Tyler surprised me with a professional photo from our wedding day that had been framed. It showed us during our first dance looking at each other with pure joy and love, surrounded by family and friends who were genuinely happy for us. "You know what I realized looking at this picture," Tyler said as we hung it in our living room. "What?" "Your family's dysfunction didn't ruin our wedding day. It just delayed it a little bit. And maybe that delay was worth it because it forced everyone to confront the truth and make changes." "So you're saying my mother's wedding sabotage was actually a good thing?" I asked with a laugh. "I'm saying our marriage is stronger because we learned to fight for it from day one. And your family is healthier because someone finally refused to enable the toxic patterns." He was right. The crisis had forced all of us to choose between maintaining comfortable lies and building authentic relationships. Most of us had chosen authenticity, and our family was better for it. The woman who had once been too afraid to set boundaries with her manipulative mother had learned to protect her marriage and demand respect from the people she loved. The man who had been too weak to stand up to his wife's favoritism had found his courage and become the father his daughters deserved. The young woman who had been enabled into helpless dependency had taken responsibility for her actions and built an independent life. And the mother who had been willing to destroy one daughter's wedding to accommodate another daughter's feelings had learned the difference between love and manipulation. It wasn't a perfect family. We still had conflicts and disagreements and moments of tension, but they were honest conflicts based on real issues rather than manufactured drama designed to avoid dealing with deeper problems. 6 months after the most chaotic wedding day in family history, we'd learned that real love sometimes requires difficult conversations, firm boundaries, and the courage to choose growth over comfort. And sometimes that courage begins with a bride in jeans and a t-shirt telling her wedding dress-wearing sister to take it off in 60 seconds or face the consequences. If you've ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who didn't respect your important moments, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. How did you find the courage to stand up for yourself when it mattered most? Please like this video if you believe in the power of choosing authentic relationships over comfortable dysfunction, and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in challenging family situations. Don't forget to share this with anyone who might need encouragement to set their own boundaries with difficult relatives. Thank you for joining me on this journey from wedding day disaster to family healing. May you always have the courage to choose relationships that honor your worth, and the wisdom to know the difference between supporting someone and enabling their dysfunction.